Want to put together a short video on making sure you know how to use Desmos in order to be able to graph piecewise functions. So let's just go ahead and jump into that. Let me get this out of the way. You can see here in this window I have a piecewise function. We're going to graph that in Desmos. I want to show you how to use all the functions so that you get all of the open circles, closed circles, boundaries, all of those things in place. There's two different ways in which you can enter a piecewise function into Desmos. I'm going to show you what I feel like is the least complicated way. That's the way that I'm going to recommend. And just jump into it. So in our piecewise function for this particular one, we have three pieces. We have f of x equals x if x is between -4 and -1. F of x equals -2 if x is starting at -1, including -1, going to 3, and f of x is x minus 6 if x is between 3 and 6, including the 3. I'm going to begin by just typing each piece of this into Desmos. So I'm in the graphing calculator part of Desmos. Just type it exactly like it says. F of x equals x. And just so I can match things with the colors here on my paper, I want to change the color of that. And I'm going to click on the line. I'm not going to click it and just pull away. I'm going to hold it over and click it so that this pops up. I'm going to change it to red just so I'll match my colors here for consistency. Just so you see the difference, if I click on, if you see where my mouse is hovering, if I click on that just once and let go real quickly, it just makes it disappear. And to get it to come back, just click it, it'll come back. But again, to make that menu come up, we're going to hold it over, we're going to hold down the button when we click it with our mouse button, and that gives us the option. All right, let's do the blue one. F of x equals -2. And the green one, f of x equals x minus 6. And I want that to match, so I'm going to change that to green. And there we have it. Now, if I look at this, let me maximize this for just a moment so we can see it. This really doesn't look like piecewise functions that we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing pieces of lines, not entire lines. And the problem is, the reason that we're seeing that is because these subdomains right here have not been entered into Desmos. So let's enter our subdomains. I'm going to go back to each equation, and I'm going to enter the subdomain here. And I'm going to put it inside of curly braces. Now please note that's not a parenthesis, it's not a square bracket, it's the curly brace. And that curly brace can be found right beside the P key on your keyboard. And I'm going to enter this in. So -4 is less than, your less than symbol is there beside your M above the comma. X is less than -1. And once I've got my boundaries in, I can click the closing curly brace, and we can see that automatically the red line has now been cut off and shortened. That's starting to look more like we're accustomed to. Let's do the same thing for the second half, or the second portion of our piecewise function. Let's put in this subdomain. Again, the curly brace, -1. Now, there is no less than or equal to symbol on our regular keyboard. Desmos will handle that a couple different ways. I can put my less than symbol, and then I can automatically hit the equal sign, or the equals key on my keyboard, and we see that it turns my less than symbol into a less than or equal to. Let me backspace over that so we can see it again. I type my less than symbol, then I hit the equals key, it automatically does it. So the other place I can do that is if you go down here to the bottom of Desmos and show the keypad, you can see they've got the less than or equal to sign down here on the keypad. That's another way you can get it. Let's finish putting in that subdomain. So -1 is less than or equal to x is less than 3. Closes my curly brace, and we can see our blue line is getting shorter again. Okay? And finally, the last one, the subdomain there, curly brace, 3 less than equal to x less than 6. And now what we have is something that looks more akin to the types of things we are used to seeing with the piecewise function. The only thing that is missing is we don't know if any of these should be open or closed circles, at least not by looking at the graph. And here's how we're going to put in open or closed circles. I'm going to come over here to where I can enter my equations in, and I'm going to enter the coordinates for each one of the points at the end of my line. So the coordinates for this point at the beginning of my red line, that's -4, -4. So I'm going to put that in, -4, -4. And I want to make sure it matches the color of my segment, so I want it to be red. It's already red. But we need to decide, is this going to be open or closed? I have to look at my subdomain, and I'm pointing to it here on our other cam. It's also up here in our equation when we define the rule. Since this is a less than with the -4, that's going to be an open circle. Here's how we turn that into an open circle. We go back to the section right here where we can change the color. Again, we're not going to click it, we're going to hold over it, and we're going to hold the button down when we click. That menu pops back up, and you can see here we have 3 options. We can mark that point with a solid circle, we can mark it with an open circle, or we can mark it with an X. We want to mark it with an open circle because this says less than. I'm going to do the same exact thing for the other endpoint of my red section. That point is -1, -1. So -1, -1. I want my colors to match just because it makes things a little bit nicer to look at. So I hold over the button, click it. I can choose red. And I want that to be an open circle, again, because it says less than -1. That's all my dots for the red section. I'm going to do the exact same thing for the blue section. I get the coordinates for my endpoints. This starts at -1, -2. Coordinates -1, -2. I want to match my colors. I want it to be blue. So I hold down and click. I choose blue. I have to decide, is it open or closed? So -1 in my blue subdomain has the or equal to. That's going to be a closed button. So right here, closed dot rather. I could select the closed dot, and we're good. Now I have to do the end point for the blue, the ending point. The coordinates for that point are 3, -2. So let's add that. 3, -2. Let's change the color to blue so we can match everything else. And we have to decide open or closed. When I look at my subdomain, it says less than 3, so it's going to be an open. Excuse me. So open circle. Done. We want to key in the coordinates now for the endpoints for our green piece. The first endpoint is this one right here. It's -3, -3. Change it to green. And when we look at our subdomain, it has or equal to, so that's going to be a closed dot, closed circle. Oh no, I accidentally erased it. And that should have been a +3, not a -3. Let's get that point in the right place. There we go. I think I typed in -3 beforehand. And the ending point is 6, 0. 6, 0, and it's got a plain less than, so it's going to be an open circle. We want it to be green. So I click and hold, green, open circle. And now, that looks more, well, what happened to my, I accidentally deleted it. Well, let's type that in again. 6, 0, green, open circle. There we go. That's how you graph this in Desmos. Okay. You can see the open circles or closed circles depending upon where it's less than or greater than. You can see the different pieces. And you can see how to enter in your subdomains by using the curly braces. And as a reminder, when you're graphing, if it's a less than symbol or a plain greater than symbol, that's an open circle. If it's less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, it's a closed circle.